stars who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing. This is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello and welcome. I'm Fender Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, here with Tom, our pop culture guru.
Hello, hello.
With the emphasis on Rue. Literary darling, James St. James.
Yes, hello.
You recently found a Cheeto shaped like a penis.
I did. It was very strange.
Geode?
A Cheeto.
A Cheeto?
Yeah, it was shaped like a penis and had 3 balls.
Did you
eat it immediately? I just chomp. Closest I've gotten to a penis in
Good to
years.
know.
He took a picture. We'll post it on the wall.
Oh, that's good.
I
Thank you.
tweeted it.
Thanks, Blake.
Oh, and Blake, our millennial producer, who heard Darren Criss say, "What's up, bitch?" to Dion Warren last night.
I did. I went to the Rocket Man thing at the Troubadour. They showed 20 minutes of it.
The Elton John movie.
Right.
The Elton John movie, Rocket Man. They showed 20 minutes, introduced by David Furnish, Bryce Dallas Howard, Jamie Bell, and Taron Egerton.
Oh, I love those two.
And Darren Criss was there. Betty Who was there. Kelly Osbourne was there. Patrick Stewart was there.
Why only 20 minutes? What's wrong with showing the movie?
That's something that happened with Bohemian Rhapsody. I know your friend Stephen Horabell was flown to Las Vegas to watch 20 minutes of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Whet
to
people's appetite.
To get the
You can't really trash something in 20 minutes, hopefully.
Yeah, it gets the press all whipped into a frenzy.
Yeah.
It was fabulous, darling.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, good. Well, we're counting down. That's like, we're counting down the top 11 things that made us go wow, because that will be number 11.
Yes. Right.
But now we're at number 10.
Number 10.
I, unlike James, have not been streaming a lot lately. I tend to just watch junk TV when I get home, which is CNN, QVC, whatever's on a sitcom. But I have picked up the mantle again, and I am newly in love with a Hulu series called Shrill.
Oh, the Lindy West. Yes, I
Yes.
love this.
It stars Aidy. What's her name?
Aidy Bryant from
Bryant
SNL. Yeah.
from SNL, who's the plus-size, beautiful, curvaceous woman,
fabulous.
and so funny. And there's one review that said a week after the premiere of Captain Marvel, a true superwoman comes forward. It's set in Portland.
Now, but very quickly, Lindy West is famous for being a Jezebel writer. That's where she first got her start in Portland at the Seattle Strangler.
Wonderful.
And then she moved on to Jezebel. And she's like an advocate for plus size women. She's an advocate for loud women, for being yourself and everything like that.
Yes.
She's very empowering.
And the series is based on her memoir, Shrill Notes from a Loud Woman.
Yes.
It's a holler. People say, it's a dramedy. There's uncomfortable moments. They deal with a big issue in the first episode, which I'll probably spoil. And a couple of weeks ago, the cover art popped up, and it's Aidy in like a big maroon bathing suit and just looking fabulous, And through the initial episode, she is it's like her father's dying of cancer. She runs into like a fitness instructor at the coffee shop, and she's like, "There's a skinny woman inside of you that wants to get out." She's like, "Yeah," and she just smiles through everything. The people behind the counter where the coffee place she goes, she's like, "You know who you remind me of? Rosie O'Donnell." "Yeah, you remind me of Rosie O'Donnell."
Oh, God.
All of this passive aggressive awful stuff. Then she has this fuck buddy, this guy who likes to raw dog her, and she's too polite to say no. And so and he makes
What
her
is raw dogging?
Raw dogging.
What is that?
Unsafe sex.
Not using
Bareback,
not using a
yeah.
condom.
Sort of
He's like,
taking
it feels so much better raw dogging. He's like, "Don't you agree?" She's like, "Uh-huh." And then he makes her leave through the back door so his roommates won't see her. So she has to climb over a fence. It's humiliating. And then she goes to work at a magazine in Portland, and her boss like literally doesn't pay. Worse than being treated badly at work is to be totally ignored.
Now, and it's got to be said that the boss is played by John Cameron Mitchell, and he's based on Dan
Savage, you know it all,
yeah,
yes. Which Dan Savage, I always think of as one of our heroes, but he's a little edgy. He's a little full of himself in the persona of John Cameron Mitchell's character.
Why is that? So is this a sort of based on truthy type thing?
Yes, it's based on her memoir, and this is all stuff that has really happened.
Did she
to her.
work for Dan Savage at one point?
Yes, at the Portland Strangler.
Oh, okay. So Dan Savage is the famous broadcaster, right?
Yes.
Savage Love is his name.
Yes,
right?
yes, and he's a sex columnist, and
Yes.
It gets better.
And it's about it's this character Annie's sort of unapologetic journey to occupy space both literally and figuratively. I think I stole that from an NPR review, but it's true. It's just like she's finding her voice in the first episode. It's an amazing cast. Julia Sweeney plays her mother. Daniel Stern plays her father. A guy named Luca Jones, I didn't know, plays her no good boyfriend. And she has this incredible roommate, Lolly Adofope.
Yes. British actress, right?
Yes.
African American, really fabulous.
And they have, and just the camaraderie. And John Cameron Mitchell is hilarious. But it's in the first episode, she gets pregnant by the guy. She's taking morning after pills, which she finds out don't work because they're only dosed for women 175 pounds and lighter. So she ends up having an abortion in a relatively thoughtful but matter-of-fact way, which is still shocking to see because it's such a reality to people. And I know I have cousins that'll be boycotting the show now. But it's ultimately full of laughs, and she is the most funny write character. In the second episode, she wants to write for this thing. She's like an assistant, and she said you can do the food article. So she goes to a strip joint and she reviews the buffet at the strip joint, and of course becomes like best friends with the strippers, and it's a really empowering message. But I'm not.
How many episodes have you seen?
I've 2 in.
I'm
gonna watch
5
all
or
of them.
6.
I think there's 8.
8, okay.
But it's worth seeing. It supposedly gets better.
I was going to say, because I've heard that there's room for it to grow, and there's a lot of room for you to really just grow to love the characters.
Yeah, super lovable characters, great ensemble, they get along,
Yeah.
and I recommend it highly. It is
Shrill on Hulu.
Yes.
And at number 9, James.
Number 9.
I was back to voodoo again. I watched a Maria Callas documentary, and Maria Callas, of course, is the mid-century opera singer who, to this day, remains very divisive among the opera community. People who love her have built a cult around her. People who hate her, loathe her, and think she's the worst thing to ever happen to opera. She is... I used to buy her albums when I was a teenager, and I would try and
sophisticated.
I would try and understand opera, and it's
hard.
It's an acquired taste.
Yep.
Have you got there yet?
And she's very hard to listen to because her voice is shrill sometimes. Sometimes it gets screechy, and it's loud and it's unpleasant, and it's because she's an actress first and foremost, and that is something that that never really happened in opera. She lived each role, and she really became these divas, and she's famous for
being a diva, I suppose.
For being a diva, yes.
Yes.
And she would sometimes she would cancel at the last minute, and she would leave. She would leave. There'd be 100,000 people to watch her, and she would make them wait 6 hours while she was getting her eyeliner just right. And sometimes she would walk out on stage, and if the air wasn't perfect, she would turn around and leave. And she was just this tempestuous diva, and people loved that about her, but they hated her, and they everything blah 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 blah. She was also very famous because she had an affair with Aristotle Onassis, the richest man in the world.
He married Jonathan Kennedy.
Yes, and that was before, and they went back and forth, and he would, they would scream at each other in public, and it would just be all fights, and then Jackie Kennedy set her sights on him, and Maria was kicked to the curb.
Well, how did she die?
Well, that's sort of sad, and I leave it. I want people to watch this documentary, so I'm not going to really say anything. But she did sort of become a recluse at the end, and she lost her voice, and she sort of ended up teaching. And there's that famous master class that Faye Dunaway, remember, channeled her with doing Maria Callas, and she became a teacher, but. It was very sad what happened to her.
Life.
Yeah, very tragic.
Because I was reading something online that said, until I saw this film, I didn't know it was possible to die of a broken heart.
Yeah. She never really got over the fact that Jackie, who was her great rival, just really just put her claws into Aristotle and was like, "I'm gonna have you." And poor Maria.
They were both very unique raven beauties.
Yes. And she was a great beauty. She really was, and she was
exotic.
And she could have been a model at some point. She was very.
Here's my speculation. I wonder if it's brought up in the documentary at all. Because she used to be really plus sized at one point, and then she ended up being really skinny. And her behavior, just as you listed down all the things that she did, sounds like she was a tweaker. Do you think she was on pills?
I'm sure she probably was. I don't think it goes there in the documentary, but you'd think in the mid-century that would probably be on Dexedrine or something, Benny's.
Yes, and those keeping people waiting. And
it's strange because as she got skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, her voice got worse. It didn't last.
But she said, screw the voice. If you're an artist, you're an artist. It
it's
stays
true.
with you.
And that's like I said, that's what people loved about her was that she really, before that, in opera it would be that isn't over till the fat lady sings. It would just be a fat lady in a Valkyrie outfit,
Right, kinda
and
just
she would just
belting.
she would just stand, come straight to the front of the stage and just belt it out,
Yes.
as opposed to Maria, who would actually live through. It was wonderful.
You know, as a schoolboy, that's when she died. I was at school. And I hated her because I wasn't really aware of her and didn't really know her work or opera. Like you say, I was always trying to listen to opera, thinking it was good for me and that
Yes,
I'd get
exactly.
it. I never did get it. But the same day she died, September the 16th, 1977, who else do you think died?
Elvis? No.
No, my Elvis, Mark Bolan of T-Rex,
Oh, yeah.
the very same day.
Huh.
And I was so livid because, frankly,
She was taking away his.
She did.
Yes.
Mark Bolan was washed up and a bit of a has-been. He was just doing a comeback. He was only 29 years old.
Did he overdose?
No, his girlfriend was driving the car. I think they'd had a little too much to drink, and they ran into a tree.
Never a good idea.
And his headlines and the sort of
was
mourning for him was
obscured a bit
upstaged by
by
Maria Callas.
Huh. So you still resent her?
I still resent her. Yes. Maria Callas, available to watch on Vudu.
Yeah, and other streaming platforms as well.
Okay, number 8.
Number 8.
I wanted to talk to you about. I don't think we've talked. I think I've mentioned it before, but we executive produced a series called Ministry of Evil, the twisted cult of Tony and Susan Alamo. I don't know if you know who they were. We
learned a little through you, but you need to.
Well, they did it.
Get people in.
We did this with Peacock Productions for Sundance, but essentially, Tony and Susan were. They met literally in a bar just off Hollywood Boulevard at the end of the 60s, which was a time when there were lots of hippies around and lost souls. And basically they just moved in, hoovered them up, said, you're going to go to hell, you're going to die terrible death in torture and pain.
Was it sort of a cult that they started
a
here
cult.
on Hollywood Boulevard?
Absolutely
Yes.
was. And they would bus them off into the country, give them a free meal, make them pray all night, sleep deprive them, then put them to work in the fields. And amazingly successful. You know, the interesting thing
I loved them. Role model.
Millionaires overnight. And the thing is that they didn't really have much in the way of charisma. I mean, Tony was like a record executive who said he'd produced one of the Beatles albums or some sort of bullshit like that.
Right.
He sort of looked like a sort of substandard Elvis, you know? And she was just sort of an ugly matron-like figure.
From Arkansas.
Yes. And she ended up dying in 1982, and he brought the body home to Arkansas and made the followers pray over the body until she came back to life.
Did she?
Are they still praying?
Spoiler alert. No, 2 years. They prayed over this body for 2
And
years.
did it, was it decomposing? Was it smelly? Was it horrible?
It was because of course, that's where my mind went. The worms, the smell, the whole nightmarish, Miss Havisham-like
yeah,
quality.
sure.
But in point of fact, they embalmed the body, so I suppose it was relatively stable. But that poor body ended up being carted all over the place.
Sort of like Evita Peron's
And
body.
he was obsessed with her. He was obsessed with her. In fact, I think secretly what he did was he groomed a lookalike woman to be his wife and had intended to produce her at one point and say, ta-da, she lives.
That's
And-
like
That's
Vertigo.
it's very like All My Children, Days
You
of Our
know,
Lives.
and Randy and I, we love televangelism, but we'd never heard of this story. Had you ever heard of the...
Well, I do know that once it was announced that you guys were doing it, people were saying that right in front of World of Wonder is where they picked up a lot of people, and I kept hearing stories about it after there.
Yes, and
Yeah.
they're still around to this day,
Really?
in fact. They're still like on the
What are they
boulevard picking
called?
people
What are,
up.
what are the people?
They are called, they're not called the Ministry of Evil. I think they're called the Tony and Alamo Ministries, I believe is their current name.
And are they still
But
here
you know
on
what they're
Hollywood
famous for?
Boulevard?
Yeah.
I want you to eat your lunch at your desk from now on, James. You're too vulnerable to go out on the sidewalk at lunch.
You know what they're famous? You know those sequin jackets that you see that like stars, what like Mr. T wore in the 80s?
Yeah.
Like jean jackets, frayed, with lots of, what are those fake diamonds? What do they call those things?
Rhinestones.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Swarovski crystals.
Rhinestones.
You're just describing Debbie Gibson, but go on.
But it's that look, that Swarovski crystal and airbrushed, and little children were forced to work and make these jackets because they were also a fashion line. I mean, it was...
And are the ones really that Mr. T wore? Were they the Alamo
Yes, in
jackets?
fact, as recent, Miley Cyrus wore one.
Really?
So,
Did
yeah.
she know what she was wearing and doing
No,
it
of course.
ironically?
No. I mean,
Because she's a big, like, hooray, hippie, you know.
Yeah, she is a big hippie.
Well,
Do you
no,
think-
she has that thing that for street people.
Oh yeah, she does take
yeah,
care of the
she
street.
does.
Happy
Yeah,
Hippies.
but do you think that maybe for Christmas, for Christmas present, we should give out the Tony Alamo jackets?
No, we shouldn't. No,
Oh. They are fabulous.
You're missing a point.
I
You're
haven't
missing
got
a
to the
fine
evil part of
point.
the ministry yet.
Ministry of Evil, not Ministry of Gifting.
He then started taking child brides, polygamy, child brides as young as 8 years old, and beating them and beating the children and raping them. So no, we should not be giving out sequin jackets. And it's funny, I mean, because I think also one of the things that really drew me and Randy to it was the parallels. This sort of, what is this that makes people get into cults and be so
Right.
vulnerable to cults and the sort of, you know, it's the lack of education, the lack of critical thinking.
MAGA people, MAGA
Trump,
people.
I love the poorly
uh-huh.
educated. Those are the people where they went after. And basically, again, it's this idea
But
of
it's lost souls who need to have a father figure in their
Yes.
life, who need guidance and who
But we're
are
all
vulnerable.
because of this American dream bullshit. Because we fundamentally, at the
Wait, so
core
now
of
you're
our
coming after
culture,
America. You're
at the
fundamentally
core,
coming after.
Hey, if you don't like America,
at
mister.
At the core of all this is a belief in the impossible and in the unreal. We believe in something unreal. And that is what they essentially are offering you, is a father figure, yes, but this whole idea of you will be taken care of, you will have money, you will have success, you will have this,
You will
that,
go
and
to
the other.
heaven.
Yes, and it's
quick fix.
It's all, frankly, you know, a crazy nonsense. And then what's so ironic is that the people, shake
No,
your head.
I want to go back to my joke of James. I'm worried about James being vulnerable. That's all. I just wanted to just stay at your desk. I'll bring you food.
The fact that ultimately these cult leaders despise most of all, the people they despise most are their followers. You know,
Sure.
the last episode is airing on Sundance and on Sundance Channel. And there's more because there's a whole series of podcasts they did. And the podcasts are actually longer than the original series. And Amanda Knox?
Yes.
Noxie, Foxy Noxie?
Yeah.
She kind of hosts the podcast. And it's
I
really
like her.
interesting.
There was that documentary about her, and we really grew to love her for that.
She's really great.
She's very charismatic.
Is there? Can we binge it? Can we on demand perhaps?
Yeah,
or an app?
SundanceTV.com or VOD through your local provider.
Got to catch up.
Mm-hmm. Hey, new episodes of Drag Race every Thursday, 9 p.m. VH1 and on Wow Presents Plus and Untucked. Okay, don't forget.
It's the show after the show, you know.
So we got to take a quick break. Blake, do you have a question?
I do. Speaking of cults, and well, Tom was going to talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because
Yeah.
Stills just came out this week,
Yes.
so you should check them out. But
Yes.
I had a trivia question about that.
Okay.
What famous rock band recorded their most successful album at the house where Sharon Tate was murdered before it was demolished in 1994?
Oh, 1994.
1994 is a hint.
Oh.
Okay, you're listening to our Polo on Radio. Andy, SiriusXM will have your answer right after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Do you ever listen to Rachel Maddow?
Yes.
She always does this
I thought you were being
Documents.
passive aggressive.
swoosh. Oh, you thought I was being hostile? No, I just tried to make sound effects. What's next? And like, play for time. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't do that. Okay.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James St. James and Blake.
Hi.
Hey.
Blake.
So we're counting down the top 10 things that made us go,
Wow.
wow.
But
And-
first,
yes, thank you. But first, before we carry on, we had a little question before the break because we were talking about cults.
What famous rock band recorded their most successful album at the house where Sharon Tate was murdered before it was demolished in 1994.
See, that 1994 is what's throwing me off because I would have said that it was probably like the Beach Boys or somebody.
Or the Turtles, who were managed by Doris Day's son, who lived there. But we're in the wrong decade.
Yeah, totally the wrong decade.
I'm going to say Hanson. I think they recorded Bebop there.
Well, that was 97. So.
I love that you know that right. You can pull it right out of your ass.
It couldn't be Marilyn Manson, could it?
Close.
Oh, is it some? It's a shock rocker. Is it like Nine Inch Nails?
Yes.
Okay.
The downward spiral.
You knew all along.
No, I didn't know it. No,
I think my Hanson helped set up.
It was the downward spiral, and there's a rumor that Trent Reznor took the door that had pig on it, and it's now like somewhere in his house in Louisiana. or something.
I don't know that that's something you want to
tear
say.
it down. They tore it down. Thank God.
Okay. So, top 10 things that made us go, wow.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I have to go back to that real quick. The pig was still written in blood on the door 25 years later?
Well, it may have just been the door that it was written
You
on.
try scrubbing and soaking and
gonna
still
say,
right around the
like
collar.
A haunted door. If you just can't get rid of that blood.
Yikes.
Number 7.
Number 7.
You guys know who Lizzo is.
Yes.
Yeah,
If
love her.
anybody with whom the sound of my voice doesn't, if you get nothing from this segment, Lizzo, stream, download, buy Lizzo.
Fantastic.
I've talked about her before. I saw her in person. We did a little project with her. She's been on RuPaul's Drag Race. She is currently in Playboy magazine. Lizzo is this beautiful. Her name is Melissa Johnson. I think is her Jefferson. Melissa Jefferson, and she is 30, and she has this incredible life. She started out in Detroit. She went to Houston, where she played in the marching band and played the flute, and then she went to Minneapolis after her father died, where she met up with Prince and his people and was produced. And her first real album is about to come out. The single Juice is incredible.
She was recently on Ellen, and she really sort of blew the rafters off.
The day she was on Ellen, I went to her listening party at Girls or whatever.
Yeah.
So good.
Is it a strip joint, right?
Yeah, the album is so good.
And I made you listen to a music video of hers. Do you remember that? And it was
Yes.
She has a soulful voice that is sort of like unlike anything else on the radio right now.
And that single Juice, I don't know, just it's like music. Madonna's music. The first few bars, you're like, I love this.
Yeah.
Can't get it out of my head.
If I follow her on Instagram at Lizzo Be Eating, which is funny because she's very body positive in the really smart ways. And recently, because I think in the fall, she plays the flute, which she always made fun of because she's like this kind of rap soul artist, and she plays the flute. So she played the flute in concert, and
she's like a modern Jethro Tull, is what you're saying.
An instrumental interlude, and then she ended it with "Bye Bitch," and it went viral, and there's 5 million hits, and she's put it on SoundCloud, and now there's a special Instagram account for Lizzo and her flute called Sasha Be Fluting. Like there's Sasha Fierce and there's Sasha Be Fluting, for which is amazing. She has an incredible sense of humor.
Yeah.
And she talks about gender and she talks about body positivity just in a really intelligent but not preachy way. What are you going to say?
No, yes. I was going to say, what did she say in the interview?
The way we talk about gender has to change. Gender doesn't really exist. We create social gender, so we got to destigmatize it. Take the importance off of skirts versus pants. That's not even real, dog. What are you fucking talking about? This is a boys' club. Get your dumb ass out of here. This is a girls' club, ho. Shut up. I mean, she's really direct, but really, I think, powerful and so full of joy is the ultimate thing too. But shares her ups and downs. Like she'll tell you about her heartaches and her breaks. It's not like she's not a beam of positivity in some kind of canned, awful, pop star way. She shares everything with you.
Did she talk about her posse in the interview? Because she has this great female.
Not as much, but she does have this group of dancers and people that have been in her life for a long, long time, and her artistic director, and they're amazing as well. And she's in. I mean, it's not just an article; it's a pictorial. So
Is she naked?
She's not naked, but she's very bold about her body.
She's naked on the cover of her new album. I mean, you don't see anything, but
right.
Very body positive.
I love her.
I
love her. Lizzo.
Doesn't she have a connection with another celebrity of ours? Doesn't she? Wasn't she on one of our shows? What's the show?
RuPaul's Drag Race?
No.
I know she works with my friend from Arkansas who did your
Yeah. She works with the Avalons, the House of Avalon.
House of Avalon, yeah.
But what's the show down in New Orleans? Who's the New
Big Frida.
Big Frida.
Big Frida.
Well, when she loves Big Frida. They've collaborated, and there was a show up here on Hollywood Boulevard a couple months ago.
Yes, and
Big Frida came on stage. She's always collaborating.
Yes,
it's just it's embarrassing. I mean, all you woke people know, but Lizzo, trust me, it's just the best music. It's so happy and so soulful, and all of her songs are a little bit different too. It's not like there's just one.
Like you can't sort of pigeonhole her.
Correct.
And I love the juice.
Yep.
It's kind of like so. It's like so. It's kind of like retro and futuristic at the same time. It's just like the best pop songs. Like you feel you know them the moment you hear them, right?
Yes. So if you read Playboy just for the articles, check out Lizzo, Playboy magazine, and it's called.
Well, we're posting a link on the Wow Report.
I love it, and it's called Lizzo the Incomparable. I like that.
Now moving to the incomparable James St. James.
Number 6.
Well, speaking about retro and futuristic and everything all at once, I saw a documentary. Actually, no, it was a one-off sort of a TV show, but I don't. It's something you watch.
It's a series.
It is no. It's only one episode.
No, it's a series.
Are you sure?
Yes, it's on Netflix.
Well, no, you're thinking of a different one. You're thinking of the world's. This was something called the world's weirdest homes.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I was watching The World's Most Unusual Homes.
I think so. Yeah. 'Cause that is
Totally different.
Totally different. Yeah. This was just a one-off thing that I watched.
World's Most Fabulous Homes.
I think so. I think there is both of those. This is the world's weirdest home, and it's the weirdest homes you could ever imagine that are built all around the world.
Why are they so weird?
Well, I'll tell you. It's a top 10, but they also is a bunch of them.
It's a top 10.
Yeah.
That's what we should do. Top 10.
Yeah. There's a home. There's a apartment building that's shaped like a snake, and it's all twisty and turny, and it's a different coils and everything like that. There's different apartment buildings in it. There's there's a house shaped like an alligator in Africa. There's one shaped like a UFO that's very famous. There's
I've heard of that UFO one before.
Yeah. There's this rotating house that does a complete circle every hour. It rotates. Number 10 was one of my favorites. It's this guy in Brooklyn who lives in a dumpster, and he's an artist who sort of retrofitted this dumpster so that it like rises up and has a second floor, and there's like a shower that comes out of it, and like you live in, and he has like a little kitchen inside of it and everything. That's really sort of fascinating. There's one that was in Mexico City. There's the snake building. Yeah, there's a snail house and that you've probably seen that's really fantastic, and everything is circular in it, and it's all
sounds like the
stained glass.
Guggenheim.
Sort of, but it's all there's not one straight line in the house, and it's all the windows are stained glass. Everything is really beautiful. There's an underground bomb shelter in Las Vegas that has been transformed into a beach, and everything is like it looks like you're outside, but you're underground, and it's all like there's like a.
Is that a private home?
It is a private home, and he has a lot of parties there that are sort of interesting.
Sandy?
There is a sandy beach that's he has like an outdoor pool and a barbecue area and everything like that.
How do you keep that clean?
And there's like a sunrise and sunset every day in the apartment
with lights?
Get a beach house.
Yeah. Well, but this is
There's no beachfront property in
when
Las
the bomb
Vegas.
comes, this was built in the 1960s, and so it's like a tiki-themed bomb shelter, so that when the bomb comes, he will have all his friends, and they will all be like on a beach celebrating while the rest of the world burns.
Until they eat each other.
Yes. There's the world's thinnest house in Warsaw, which is sort of, it's about like the size it's like your shoulders, like you have to sort of walk in sideways. That's sort of interesting. There's the Palace of Bubbles in Saint-Tropez that Pierre Cardin owns.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth $350 million, and it's on the side of a cliff, and it's all like these bubbles that are interconnected, and there's 10 bedrooms and three pools.
Sounds like most of them were built in the 60s, right?
Yeah, a lot of them. And number one, actually number two, I think it was the space house, the spaceship houses, and there was 100 of them there. They were called the Futuro houses. I don't know if you remember this in the 1970s. And there's only one of them left that's fully that someone lives in.
Where?
It's in.
It's not that one in the Hollywood Hills.
Well, that's
on a
the
big
chemosphere, isn't
That's
it?
the chemosphere. Yeah,
That's where the Taschen guy, Benedict Taschen, lives.
Yeah, and that was that a
Lautner?
was it Lautner?
Can I ask this one question about the bubble house?
Yeah.
Are they bubbles or balls? Is it the ball house, really?
It's balls.
Yeah.
Oh, they're balls, not bubbles?
That's right.
I thought they were more ovoid.
Ball house.
Is this like Gaga's bubble dress? Is that kind of what it looks like?
Kind of, but it's on the side of a cliff overlooking the Mediterranean. It's absolutely gorgeous. But the Futuro houses are something that I think that you would really be interested because they're all around the world. There were 100 of them built, and different people bought them, and they were sort of prefab houses, and they were sort of only like $300 or something like that. But now they've all fallen into disrepair except for one eccentric man who still owns one, and it's probably like in Ohio. I mean, it's like Idaho or someplace in the middle of nowhere.
Once I was in Tokyo, and I saw the pod building, and it was a state-of-the-art thing in the 70s, and these beautiful, like, just boxes stacked on top of each other with round windows, and it was so futuristic, and yet, you know, time has not been kind, and you look up and you just see shit stacked against the windows, and the whole thing's falling apart. It would just be a glorious thing to restore.
To take and restore, sure.
James, normally I would say talking about visual things in the radio is a bad idea, but you brought them to life.
Yeah,
you really did. Your command of the language is such.
World's Weirdest Homes currently streaming on Netflix, and we'll post some pictures on the Wow Report as well. Okay, number 5.
Number 5.
I don't like what is happening. There is so much true crime out there, and it seems that every crime that's committed, there's a 4, 5, 6-part documentary. And I wonder,
well,
aren't
you responsible for that?
In a little bitty, itty bitty way, but isn't it having an effect on us? Is it changing us?
Is it a corrosive sort of?
We suddenly think the world is all crime and darkness.
It absolutely plays in. It's happening now more than ever before.
Yeah.
We've always been intrigued with these headlines.
Or is it just that there's more access to it because the internet has given us, like, we are 24 hours a day bombarded by these things.
And there's more archive, there's more material, right?
Yes.
But that idea, people have said to me, like, I only watch documentaries. Like, you're like an intellect. It's like you're only watching murder stuff.
Yes.
You're watching basically Dateline with better production value.
I only watch PBS, is what they would say in the 70s. Yes.
Or CNN.
Yes, you used to be a crashing bore if you said that in a snob. But now, if you're only watching documentaries, you're watching gore and perversion and crime and sickness. Like, for example, my pick at number 5, The Inventor, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley.
I've seen ads for this.
This is the story of Elizabeth Holmes, who rose to mega fame in Silicon Valley by supposedly having invented a device, the nanotainer, which basically took a drop of your blood, and by taking that, they put it in a box, in a lovely looking box, sort of sleek, modern Apple-looking thing. I think they called the box the Edison. Anyway, you put it in a box, the drop of blood, and every kind of disease you could be screened for. So all you needed, because normally you go to a doctor, you got something wrong, they have to take gallons of blood, and you have to go and give it again and again and again. This was one drop of blood. And there's a great poster for the series of her holding up this thing, the nanotainer. And look, she had a great vision. I mean, it's like a sci-fi idea, actually, isn't it? It's like straight out of sci-fi. And Theranos, the name of her company, was called Merging Therapy and Diagnosis. Theranos.
That's a very sinister sounding name,
She was
though.
super duper young. She dropped out of Berkeley, I think, at 19 or something. And she started this company. And in a couple of years, she had 700 people working for her. And she
valued at billions of dollars, right?
Gazillions. I mean, it was, and she gave TED Talks, and she only wore black. And, you know, this is when you begin to think, what's going on here?
It's another cult.
Yes, because she'd be like, we all know this trope. The man who's so busy or motivated or successful that they don't have time to pick out what they wear.
Well, that's
so
Einstein,
they just wear the same thing. And that's why she wore black. And what else did she do?
Well, it frees up your mind so that you don't have to worry about
But
those
not
things.
to that's a spoiler alert, but it was a scam.
Oh, I was gradually getting that. And in fact, this is a great so far. I haven't watched all 4 hours. It's by Alex Gibney, who's made a gazillion docs. But the first sort of clue that something is awry is the machine that she makes to test the blood is called the Edison. And they go on this little diversion in the documentary where they say, well, the thing about Edison was he announced the light bulb 10 years before it actually worked. And he almost went broke trying to get it to work. In fact, the way he bought silence of journalists who would expose to him was by giving them stock. And the short story long is that eventually he managed just in the nick of time to make the light bulb actually work. And the same thing with this machine. They're trying to get this fucking machine to work. And of course it doesn't work because you can't put an entire laboratory into a box, even with the magic of miniaturization. And then the amazing thing is there was never any real science in what she was saying. And no one really This is the same thing. It's another cult, as you say. No one really stopped to say, hang on a second. And what the documentary does that's so great is at the very, very beginning, she's babbling away, and they say, no, look into the camera, which you feel is a little heavy-handed of the documentary makers. But the moment she looks into the camera, you're like, oh my God. You're like, because all the photos of her have been photoshopped and touched up, and suddenly you're looking at a freak. And the thing about her is she doesn't blink. She just doesn't blink.
Oh, it's the Mark
Just
Facebook, Mark
doesn't-
Zuckerberg.
Doesn't blink.
He's a robot.
And you just feel, yes, exactly. You suddenly feel from the outset, this woman is an alien impersonating a human being. I am hooked. The other thing she did, is kind of genius, is to have a board. She's very young, so she rounded up for her board Henry Kissinger, who's like about 600 years old, and George Shultz. I mean, very powerful, but also very old men who kind of fell in love with this voluptuous lady, and of course who had powerful connections. And the whole thing is an incredible, magical
But for
sleight
every
of hand.
Facebook or Silicon Valley success, there are hundreds of these, and people put so much money, and you need the personalities that are kind of delusional, right? Because to build something from nothing, you have to believe, and so many scams. That's why I don't understand how the economy works, because so many things are overvalued or just don't make sense.
Right. That's exactly
And
right.
all these billionaires are like spreading out their money and trying to invest in everything, so when the one thing takes off, they're part of it.
Right.
Anywho.
James, you must watch The Inventor, Out for Blood, Silicon Valley on HBO or Go. HBO Go.
Or HBO Now.
HBO Now, HBO Go.
HBO then.
We have to go. Take a break.
Yeah.
Now.
What's the question, Blake?
Well, this doesn't really have to do with anything, but on this day,
Yes.
Yes.
in 1997, this figure skater became the youngest women's world figure skating champion at 14 years and 10 months. Who was she?
We're gay. We should know figure skating.
Wait,
okay.
what year?
97.
97. The same year as Hanson.
All right. We'll have the answer for you after the break. In the meantime, get caught up on this season of $1 Million Listing Los Angeles Bravo app on new episodes every Thursday, 9 p.m. Bravo. Listen to Wow Report on Radio Andy, SiriusXM.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
What happened?
Do
We
you,
just lost you.
I'm sorry. No, I just keep trying to think of who the skater would be.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right. We lost you long before the trivia question.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the Wow Report, our countdown of the top 10 things of the week that make us go wow. James St. James is here. This is Tom Campbell, Blake Jacobs, and moi, Fenton Bailey. So we have a random question before the break.
I did. On this day, March 22nd, in 1997, this figure skater became the youngest women's world figure skating champion. She was 14 years and 10 months old.
I
Who
know
is
it's
she?
not Peggy Fleming. And I know it's not Dorothy Hamill.
Rhonda.
And who is the Tracy?
Who's the one in the 30s who was
Sonia Henning.
Sonia? It wasn't Sonia Henning.
It's Sonia.
Well, it can't be Tanya Harding or
No.
It can't be who's the one?
It's who's Tara Lipinski.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
that's
it's so
it.
brilliant.
Pulled it out of my butt.
I'll be damned.
Thank you.
Let's carry on with our countdown of the top 10 things that made us go wow this week. Number 4.
Number 4.
Catastrophe. Amazon series. In its fourth and final
About
series.
cats?
I wish. Stars Sharon Horgan and Rob Delaney. I've talked about this before.
Wait, I don't know about what this is.
This is Carrie Fisher has played Rob Delaney's mother. She had made some appearances. She's since passed away. It's a British series that airs on Amazon. So it's been like 6 episodes a season. It's been a delight. The premise from the very beginning was it starts off with this American from out of town, Rob Delaney, who was famous for sort of
I follow him on Twitter. He's very funny. Yes.
And Sharon Horgan, who's really funny Irish, who actually was the the exec producer and writer of the first season of Divorce, Sarah Jessica Parker's thing, which didn't quite work the way he wanted to. But what? And he has a one night stand with her. He gets and they just like screw, and he goes back to America. She gets pregnant. She's a school teacher, and she's like, I'm pregnant, and he comes back for her to have the baby. They get married. The next seasons they have 2 kids, and it is the most. I'm not in a long-term relationship, but they are they're not despicable characters. They're incredibly human characters. Yes, they're flawed. They're so funny. They're so attractive. And this last final season, just 6 episodes, so they're like almost like 4 movies have been made about them. But it starts off, the series ended season 3 where he's a recovered alcoholic. And so he doesn't drink. It's a big deal. But then he starts to secretly drink at the end of season 3. And she ends up, for some reason, like, I think jerking off some, like, young guy. They're married. They have 2 kids. But she does, she kind of cheats. And he comes out after her. And the season 3 ended on a cliffhanger of him crashing his car. And with her watching. And so now this season he's back to being sober. She's incredibly distrustful. She follows him everywhere. Part of his community service for his crime is he has to work at this little tiny thrift shop with these 2 old ladies who are deadly tired. But so he's a criminal doing all these things, and she starts to just all of a sudden shoplift. Like with her kid, she starts taking like stickers off of expensive things and putting them on, and she gets caught. And so she's there with her 2 kids. She's the total and the guy's just giving her like all this crap, and yet you love them. And they're going to be dealing with. I've seen 2 episodes. There's 6 altogether, and they're going to be dealing with the passing of Carrie Fisher, who plays his mother. And what's your question?
Well, why is it going to be the final season? It just seems so rich.
You tell me, the British people.
Oh, you know how you people are.
We ruin everything.
Yeah, you have 3 episodes and call it a season, and then you have 5 seasons and call it, and you're done.
But I kind of love it. And if you haven't seen it, you can start from the beginning, and it'll take you no time. If you have been waiting like I have for season 4 for a long time, it's out. And there's been kind of a gap between 3 and 4, and one of the reasons, I don't know if reasons, but one of the things that happened is that Carrie passed away. Right. It's been that long. But also Rob Delaney, who's so beautiful and so lovely and funny, he had a young son who had cancer and died. Yeah. So it's but there's something so bittersweet. And one of the reviewers said,
but it is interesting to watch his Twitter and watch him grieve and sort of find joy in life again and become it's taken about a year, and he's very funny now.
Yeah.
And he's sort of he can laugh.
And there's some parallel with what he went through personally and kind of what this character is going through. Mm-hmm. And there's just a great quote from one of the viewers saying, some viewers find that Catastrophe carries a strong warning against ever getting married. I always saw it as a ringing endorsement. I do too. If I were in a relationship, I want it to be this honest and this kind of bare bone. And even they have sex, and it's always like, he has a neck brace, and she's like, oh, I can't really have sex with you. And looking at the neck brace, he goes, what if I turn you around? So like, okay. And then she's like, I can see in the mirror. So turn up the light, and it's like, yeah, that's better, thanks. So it's like the way the sex, sex always like goes into like fades to music, and it's always like, can I not look at you? Anyway, Catastrophe on Amazon.
And we've all been there.
Turn the lights off.
I can still see you, James. Oh.
Can you not speak?
Oh, James.
You're being awfully quiet, Benson.
Respecting his relationships.
Number 3.
I was sort of mad at myself because I missed the week that you guys talked about leaving Neverland, and it's such an important piece of journal. It's something that I've needed to talk about. I feel like I couldn't watch the second half. It was I couldn't get through it. It was very triggering and very hard, and it's just so much.
Why was it triggering? I mean, what did you?
Well, just all the things that they were saying just sounded like what sexual abuse victims go through, and everything about it was so true. And it's frustrating to listen to the Jackson fanatics who won't watch it, but they're just denying it outright, and they are so fanatically involved in their idol, that they refuse to even believe that it could be possible.
You know what?
And
It's the cult thing again.
It
right?
is the cult thing
And
again.
denial is a coping mechanism that can be
And
misused.
if you listen to James Safechuck and Wade Robeson, there's not a doubt in your mind you could ever have. And I want to hug both of them. I love them both so much. I love them still now. I think they're both just so wonderful.
Not to interrupt, but one of the things I found particularly moving was the moment that moment where the whole thing pivots from them saying, well, I wasn't abused. I just didn't think of it as abuse. And so clearly what they thought was love. And then, yeah, I guess it kind of, that sort of journey was so,
And to
I know you
still-
could only do it in a multi-part, when you've got several hours to really immerse in one aspect of it. And then even transitioning out years later, they still felt,
You still identify. You still have a Stockholm syndrome sometimes, and it's hard when you're that young and it's the most famous person in the world and it's your idol, and it's so many levels and everything. But that's not what I want to talk about right now.
Well, time's
What
up.
But I did want to talk about. Recently, I did see that the Paris Prince and Blanket were thinking of suing James Safechuck and Wade Robeson for emotional distress and for slander, things like that. Recently, over the weekend, Paris we don't know. She might have attempted suicide. They said that she might have slashed her wrists.
Although she's out and about, she's been photographed and taped.
She was photographed wearing a jacket that said "I'm fine," very Melania Trump, and then she called TMZ fucking liars. You're fucking liars. Blah blah blah. And then also.
I read a quote where she said, "I'm not responsible for defending my father," and I think I didn't read the whole article, but I think that's really true. Like, leave them alone.
It is.
Leave the kids alone.
And as hard it is for James Safechuck and Wade Robeson, it's really hard on the kids too, because you are not responsible for the sins of your father.
Not at all.
And it's got to be very hard for them to actually come to the realization that maybe the person that they love, and this is something that I've talked about in Disco Bloodbath, and also in the book that I was writing about my family, that can you still love somebody for the memories that you have of them when you were confronted with the fact?
And yes, you can, because life is complicated. It's not black or white. And I think it just, but this whole, everything you're saying just speaks to the way it's like a bomb going off of pain and hurt. And that actually, it probably didn't even begin with Michael.
Because Michael was abused. I mean,
iteration, pain, just
generational.
Generational.
Usually tend up ending abusing themselves, and so you can't really.
My friend, because there's that whole discussion, can we enjoy Michael Jackson's music and all that kind of stuff? And my friend Michael Razzo, who I hike with every Saturday, or I used to, and I'm starting to again, he had the best. He goes, I'm the fixer. And he's not a fixer in real life, because I'm the fixer. He goes, the Jacksons or Paris should come out and say that half of the money that we get from the music that's played and bought and licensed will go toward children's charities or children abuse, because Michael cared about children. And so that's what we're going to do. So every time we hear a song, we know that help is being given. I think it's a brilliant idea.
I think that would be a brilliant idea, but I think every single penny would have to go to that. I don't think
but I also don't think that the Jackson family would ever do it, because that's how they all live off of Michael Jackson's money. Every single one of those Jacksons, except for Janet probably. But also, it's weird because I would think that you can't cancel all of Michael's music. I remembered in February, a lot of people were playing Michael Jackson music because they knew that once this came out, they wouldn't be able to play it anymore. A lot of radio stations, and a lot of songs like Pretty Young Things, things like that take on, Beat It, and I'm.
Although I have to say, on my
Bad.
SiriusXM dial on my car, where I have it by artists, not by the stations, there's a lot of Michael Jackson popping up.
Yeah, but that's a lot of people fighting it and saying that I will not. A lot of people in denial.
To be continued. I think there's a lot more to come here. Yeah. James, I'm a little disappointed, because I thought at number 3 you were going to talk about wild parrots raiding Indian poppy fields to get high. Will you promise to tell us that story another episode?
Doesn't the headline kind of describe the whole story?
I suppose maybe that's it. Okay, number 2.
Number 2.
This week was the return of what has become my son's favorite show.
And yours too, I think.
I'm afraid so, yes. 9-1-1.
911 on Fox.
911 on Fox. But they haven't put a dash in, so it's not 911.
Oh, wait, this is Angela Bassett, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So it's not 911, I think, is why there's dashes.
I think so. Okay, anyway, that show. It
Ryan
was.
Murphy.
It is. Thank you. Yes, it is Ryan Murphy. It is the campiest horror thing I've ever seen. James, it's got your
don't know
name
anything about it.
written all. Oh, you've got to watch it. It's a very simple premise. It's first responders. I don't know what their specialty is, fire or something. It's a group of first responders, and basically people call up the service. Oh my God, I got an emergency. You will not believe the emergencies they have. And then they rescue these guys. Angela Bassett and her team rush out to save lives and do good and all the rest of it. So this one begins with a woman on the phone saying, "Oh my God, the anesthetician's crushing my leg." So you're a little discombobulated.
Wait, the
What's
what?
the anesthetician is crushing my leg. Help me. The
An anesthetician.
So it's a
yeah.
woman who's in surgery and. Well, we don't know. We think it's a woman in surgery with the anesthetician passed out on her. What is a woman in surgery doing with, like, other people around?
Is she addicted to anesthesia?
So they go out in their what do you call that?
hazmat suits.
Thank you. They go in their hazmat suits. They go in, and everybody in this facility is passed out. Everybody's lying around on the floor.
And they're all just addicted to anesthesia?
They move into the surgery room, and the woman's like, "Help me, help me." And that is where, spoiler alert, her neck is basically completely cut open. And you're like, "Oh my God." And everyone in the operating theater is passed out. But she's awake. So what the WTF?
Yeah.
What is going on? Okay, long story short, the plumbers were in, and they caused a rupture in the line that feeds the anesthetic to the. So everybody in the facility was passed out, and the guy cutting the pipes has got a buzz chainsaw right in his chest, and
he passed out with his buzz chainsaw.
So they're wheeling him out. The woman who's in the operating sees this man with a thing in his buzzsaw in his chest. She sits up and her face falls off.
She's getting a facelift.
Because she's getting a facelift. They all passed out midway.
And why didn't they pass out?
Why doesn't she pass out?
Because I think somehow she was on a light mixture of anesthetic and oxygen. She had a mask on, so she wasn't.
Oxygen.
That's why I always keep an oxygen tank at home, just in case.
So that is the start. And then the next thing that happens, no, seriously, next thing you see a car crash on the freeway, so, usual sort of thing. But then the next thing you say, "Help, help, I'm being eaten by a shark." Long story short, the truck contained a shark. The guy was trying to save the shark, and the shark bit his arm off on the freeway. So it's very, yes, that's all I got time for, really.
But wait a minute.
Yeah.
Does Nolan like it because he's a fine connoisseur of camp, or because he has a crush on Angela, or what is it that appeals to Nolan?
I think Nolan was at first drawn in by the just sheer adrenaline of the situations, but then, like me, he has just become compelled by the increasingly Byzantine and bizarre nature
of Ryan Murphy's head. Yes.
I mean, really, they've jumped the shark already. When you got attacked by a shark on a freeway and a woman's face falls off.
Screw the shark. Just go for it.
Oh, well, they saved the shark too. They free willy as well.
No, but jumping the shark. Everything's jumping.
When I was Nolan's age, there was a show called Rescue 911, and it was like real people.
That's right.
They had drama.
Well, now we need more. It used to have Connie Britton, who was replaced by Jennifer Love Hewitt. And there's the hunky Peter Krause. Angela
he's
Bassett,
very good, yes.
And many others.
Yeah. So that's 911, Mondays, 9 p.m. on Fox. Did I tell you RuPaul's Drag Con is just around the corner?
Oh, don't tell me about that.
24th, 25th, 26th. I hope you're ready, James.
No, I'm not even close.
RuPaul's Drag Con LA at the
LA Convention Center.
Thank you.
That's why I'm here.
RuPaul'sDragCon.com. That's where you get the tickets. Okay, quick break. When we come back, the number one thing this week that made us go, wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. Fenton, Tom, James, Blake. We've reached that moment that we all stay tuned for. The number one thing that made us go, wow.
Number one.
And this week, it's a personal story.
Self-serving.
We'll let James wasn't there, so we can tell you. But the RuPaul's Drag Race was celebrated at the PaleyFest 2019 at the Dolby Theater, where the Oscars take place.
Yes. And Ru wore a fabulous pastel pink outfit.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous little suit.
There was 13 of us. It was RuPaul, Michelle,
Who was in white glasses and a white dress. I saw that, yes.
Ross, and Carson.
Gorgeous, yes.
Plus, and I'm going to forget, but Randy, Fenton, me, Pam Post, Tim Palzola.
Pam Post from Logo?
Yes, for VH1 now.
Uh-huh.
And also Mandy, Salangzang, Stephen Korff. Did I miss anybody?
Nope. Theron was there?
Theron was there taking pictures. We have lots of
Spencer
pictures.
was there and Mandy was there.
Spencer was there.
Yeah, our social media people.
It was something like 800 or 900 people bought tickets.
But it was the Dolby Theater. It was the Oscars Theater. So one of the
gorgeous,
most exciting was just sitting on that stage,
Yes.
getting the view that they get when they hand out Oscars or accept them.
Fabulous.
When there was only like 4 people in the audience, we were waiting to fill up. I went center stage and I sang. I
believe I can fly.
No, I sang the Kelly Clarkson. What she sang at the
A
finale.
moment like
There's some people wait a lifetime for that one
special
perfect kiss. Oh, I can't
believe it's happening to me.
But during
And that's all the time we have.
but during the actual fest, Ross was so clever because he's like, this is the exact spot that Lady Gaga sang at the Oscars. And so Carson put his head on Ross's shoulder and they hummed a few bars.
That was a priceless moment just after we'd played the clip of Lady Gaga appearing on Drag Race. So.
Yes.
Now, but it was also hosted by Aisha Taylor, who's one of my favorite people on the planet.
That is we're bearing the headline because Aisha Tyler.
Aisha Tyler, yes.
We've had on the show. We know her. She
was on Friends. Remember?
Yes, she was like the only black person on Friends. She was on the Talk. She's I think on one.
She's
of
on
the
Archer
CSIs
now. She's so fantastic on Archer. Yeah,
and she's like the hardest working woman in show business. And she took her Sunday off. She goes. I worked so hard. She goes. I was so happy this happened on a Sunday so I could do it. Like what an honor. And she wore her legs, which like if anybody can rival RuPaul's legs,
gorgeous legs,
and this little sparkly thing, and her hair was great. And she spoke so beautifully about Drag Race, and some people get it on different levels. And she's, some people are like, "Oh my God, how long does it take for you to get into makeup?" But she understood that it had a message of that relates beyond gay, beyond drag.
Well, I have to say, I always think Ru is amazingly wise and articulate and insightful. And he said something this time I haven't heard him say before, which was when talking about, a lot of people were talking about their favorite moments in the show, and obviously Roxy Andrews talking about being abandoned as a 3-year-old by her mother at the bus station is just. It's just something that even talking about it now just goes straight to straight to me. But then Ru said, and can you help me out, Tommy? It was like, he was saying like, that's the thing about what the show is and drag is that they've been through something to become it. You don't just walk out the house and you're a drag queen. Right. And it's that demonstration of coping mechanisms. Yeah. And what was it? It was so brilliant. I was like,
I'm not helping you.
Oh, no. It's always...
But just the idea that I don't think drag queens aren't by accident. It's like they've overcome something. They're fighting something. They're making sure they're being seen. They're recreating their own reality.
I think Ru was saying that everyone in some way comes from a broken situation or has a dysfunctional aspect of their lives. And what a lot of gay people have to go through to become who they are and to find their voice is they have to learn not only to have the courage to stick to what they want to be and who they are, but they have to learn how to cope with rejection and hardship and difficulties. And he channel it into joy and song and dance and beauty and makeup and fashion. Right, not let that hardship destroy you. That's one option. That is, but rise above it and transform it into some, like in an alchemical way, transform it into something, turn something horrible into something fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this something that we're going to be able to watch on TV?
It was streaming live, but it's not streaming now.
No.
Oh, but did somebody tape it and we'll be able to somehow someday get it online or something?
Lots of pictures.
Lots of pictures. Hey, you can listen to
Sorry I asked.
You can listen to the official RuPaul's Drag Race podcast, James, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. That's dragracepodcast.com.
And we just have to thank the PaleyFest for having us, and thank Michael Fabiani, who's the press person from VH1, who does amazing stuff for the show, and put it all together. It was really, it was, it is what it is. It doesn't make us fancy, but it's you work on so many things, and everyone works hard in their life, but it's nice to have a moment where people are like, wow, we like it, and to have that moment. So thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, James.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate you, Sven.
Oh, thank you.
Blake,
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Well, thanks for tuning in to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
We appreciate you. for listening.
Anytime on the Sirius Radio app, anytime on the Wow Report, same time, same place next week.
Yeah.
Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
Wow!